It Lives in the Woods. Chapter 1. My name is Michael. I'm currently 22, and I'm writing this to tell the world about what I saw. Something inhuman. Something that took everything from me. To be honest, I'm not even sure if I imagined it or not, but either way, I can't ever part with these memories. The only way you'd ever believe me is if you were there. As if you'd seen what I saw all those years ago. When I first came across this monster, I was 16. I lived deep in the woods and was homeschooled, the result being that I didn't really have any friends. That being said, I did get some. I met them at my 16th birthday party, James and Lauren. One of my mom's friends decided to bring their niece and nephew with them, and we immediately hit it off. James was a jacked tall guy, and I realized pretty quickly that he was a jokester. Most of the time, he wore tank tops and jeans and had slicked back hair, so I always called him Greaser. Lauren was beautiful, with blonde hair and blue eyes. I could tell her hair was dyed, though. I was curious on what she would look like with her natural hair color. We played video games in my room for most of the party, our dog, Milo, by my side as always, until it was time for the actual party part of the birthday to start. We talked for hours upon hours, even after the birthday party ended. Lauren was 15 and James was 17, and they were closer than I ever thought a brother and sister could be. I never had any siblings, so I didn't really get it, but it seemed like they loved each other a lot. My parents got me a car for my birthday, which I knew was coming because they had already started teaching me how to drive and taking the steps necessary to get me my learner's permit. Because I was getting a car, Lauren and James' aunt decided to let me drive them home, and left them at my house after I asked them to stay. They didn't live far, maybe a few blocks away. My parents weren't really strict, and I never did anything dumb enough to lose their trust in me. The effect being that they trusted me to be safe while driving alone only after a few months of driving lessons. Not many cops came through our town, so driving without a license wasn't a big deal. It was too small for even a police station to be placed in town. We lived on the outskirts of our town on a no-outlet street, meaning the only reason anyone would head this way is to get to this section of our town. I keep saying town, but it really was more like a village, a total population of about less than 100 people. But even though the town was small, I had no idea James and Lauren lived so close. Because me and my newly acquired friends got so close rather quickly, we decided to see each other habitually. After I dropped them off that night, we exchanged numbers and we promised to see each other again soon. When I got home, I went back to the same old, ordinary, boring life that I was so used to living. Living in the wilderness seems great, but not when you're more mature than a kid wanting to play outside or explore. Besides, I already knew miles of these woods like the back of my hand from the countless years of exploring and playing in it as a kid. My daily life consisted of a whole lot of school, work, and video games. My parents were pretty loaded, so I never had to get a real job as long as I helped out around the house. My mother didn't have to worry about me getting into trouble because I almost never left the house. It's not that I wasn't allowed to, I just never saw any reason to. I didn't like people very much, and I never knew how good it felt to have real friends until I met James and Lauren, who grew real close to me in a matter of months. The only contact with something that truly rattled me happened deep in the woods. There was always this house that really creeped me out, which was out of character for me as a child, considering I wasn't scared of many things. It was an old cabin that couldn't have been more than a 2-bedroom house with a big living room. I steered clear of that house, afraid of what I might find and how on earth someone could live miles in the woods without a vehicle to go anywhere. The only reason I knew someone lived there is because I caught a glimpse of someone coming out of the house one time, and I didn't stick around much longer after that. Another thing is that anytime I would go anywhere near that house, I would always hear the noise of what I would only assume was animals screeching from the direction of the cabin. No matter what kind of animal noise it was, though, their howls always ended abruptly. I tried not to think about that house as I grew older. I tried to tell my mom about it once, but she just shrugged it off like I was a kid imagining something, which she had full reason to believe, as I was a pretty imaginative kid. Defenestrating my efforts, I brought it up to my friends, James and Lauren, a few months later, while we were outside at night in my treehouse that me and my dad built when I was younger. Chapter 2. Wow, this hike is crazy long. How far out did you and your dad build this thing? Lauren complained. Relax, we're almost there. Trust me, it'll be worth it, I reassured her, keeping my pace the best I can with the gas can I was carrying. It had better be. If you dragged us all the way out here and it's lame, I'm gonna kill you, Lauren jokingly threatened, looking away from me. Well, I wanted a place far away from my parents in case I ever wanted to do something that my parents wouldn't want me doing. James looked at me surprised. You? Rebellious? I didn't know you had the balls for that, Mikey, he pestered as he slapped me on the back. James was the complete opposite of me. He was a delinquent and made sure that everyone knew it. You know I always come prepared in case you ever want to rebel or something. Fat chance, Greaser. I said in case, okay? I never ended up doing anything with it, but there might still be some beers up there. Oh shit, where'd you get beers from? James asked, surprised. From Kevin, down the road. Kevin worked at a gas station on the edge of town. He was pretty careless all the time. He would sell drugs to a 9-year-old if they asked. Figures, James said as if he expected the answer I gave him. We're here. This is it, I said, letting out a sigh of relief as we all stopped to admire the treehouse. Mike? I thought you said this was a treehouse, Lauren said quizzically, stopping in her tracks. This looks like a small mansion. My dad went all out when I told him I wanted to build a treehouse. I remember thinking he was more excited than I was. He immediately took me on a trip to a nearby hardware store and bought enough wood to build a 2-story house. It's in a tree, ain't it? I said sarcastically. Lauren made sure to let me know she was annoyed by rolling her eyes. The treehouse had 3 floors. The first floor was about the size of a living room. The second floor was a bedroom, and the third floor was just an open area with a view like no other. It wasn't an open treehouse either. Each floor had 4 walls and a roof, except for the top floor, of course. There was also a pull string that dropped a ladder to go up to the next floor. Below the first floor, there was a generator that you could access through a hatch behind the TV in the main room. My parents were pretty loaded and I was an only child, so I was spoiled enough to get a TV in my treehouse. There was a couch, a TV, and an entire kitchen with a pantry of all kinds of snacks. The type that you'd find in a teenager's room. My dad showed me how to start the generator, but he told me never to touch anything but the start lever, as any protective parent would. As we climbed onto the balcony, my friends were still in awe. They didn't have rich parents like I did, so they had never seen anything like this. I went up the old wooden ladder first as my friends followed, gas can in one hand. Once I reached the balcony, I took a deep breath and reminisced about this old piece of work my dad and I built. I had so many great memories with my dad. Building this was one of the best. Lauren got up and tried the door, but it wouldn't open. Mike? How are we supposed to get in? Lauren asked, shrugging her shoulders at me. I pointed at the old, deteriorating flower pot next to the door, and she lifted it up to find the key to the door taped underneath it. Although it was a little rusty because the vase had cracked and had been leaking water onto the metal key. It had been years since anyone's been up here. Oh, neat, but I hope it still works. After a few failed attempts, we finally heard the click of the locking mechanism opening. Lauren slid the key into her pocket and we stepped in, James practically pushing me down to get in. Told you it'd be worth it, I said confidently, regaining my balance. Yeah, sorry to doubt you, this is insane, Lauren exclaimed in reverence. As I went to start the generator, gas can in hand, Lauren sat on the couch. The sputtery generator finally roared to life after a laborious amount of pulls. Me and Lauren immediately started playing fighting games while drinking leftover beers in the treehouse, until James pulled out what I assume he meant when he said I came prepared. I'm gonna take a little trip out of this world. Wanna join me, sis? Lauren agreed, and James started rolling a joint with the weed that he pulled out of his pocket. He also pulled out a pack of rolling papers and a lighter. Hey, count me in, Greaser, I said, trying not to sound too eager. To be honest, I had always been curious as to why they enjoyed getting high so much. It wasn't something I found particularly intriguing. Both of them stopped what they were doing and looked up at me like I was just sad that I ran over their dog. Holy shit, Mike, are you Hell yes, Mikey. Lauren was cut off by James before she could finish her sentence. I've been wanting to get high with you since I met you. Come here, man. James patted the ground next to him. I took the opportunity while Lauren was distracted and assured my victory over her. Haha, I win! I yelled, jumping off the couch. Whatever, I totally would have beat you if I was looking. Lauren said as she shrugged and started over to James. Anxiously, I crept over to him as well by the window where he lay lazily against the wall and sat down next to him. Lauren followed. Alright, I'll let you light it. Take a big hit. I followed his orders as best as I could, but since this was the first time I'd ever done any type of drugs, I was immediately taken aback by the smoke filling my lungs. I started coughing before I could finish my hit. Jesus, man, how do you do this shit? I asked, not particularly needing an answer since I already knew they'd been doing it since they were 14. You get used to it. When you're smoking with someone else, you take 2 hits, then you pass it around until it gets to you again, James explained, using a lot of hand gestures. I hesitantly took another cough-filled hit and passed it to Lauren. Wow, Mike, I can't believe you really did it. I totally thought you were just messing around. You feeling alright? Lauren asked, more curious than concerned. I hate this shitty town. I don't know anything outside of what school has taught me. I mean, how am I ever going to socialize with anyone if I live in the middle of the woods away from everyone? Yeah, I guess it's lucky you met us. James paused while Lauren passed him the joint and he took a hit. You'd probably be dead of boredom by now. We're probably the only house near yours in this shitty town. Well, actually, I remember there is one other house out in these woods. I saw it years ago when I was a kid. It always creeped me the hell out because it's so far in the woods and I've never seen any kind of vehicle around it. There were always all kinds of animals around it too, I said, finally digging up those forgotten memories. This piqued James' interest. Well, how do you know it's not abandoned or something? Lauren asked. Well, for starters, I've seen the guy that lives there before. I've only seen him once and he didn't see me, but he was wearing what I think was fur all over his body. And the creepiest part is, he was wearing some sort of bear head that looked like it came from a mascot costume, I answered, looking down at the ground the whole time. Okay, creepy, James said, still interested. James, you let the joint go out, Lauren said, annoyed. Ah, shit, Mike, could you relight this? I didn't even notice, but I still had the lighter in my hand. He handed me the joint and I relit it and slid the lighter into my pocket. How far does this guy even live? Lauren asked. Not far from here, but miles from the house, maybe even farther. I answered as I took a hit of the joint I was holding. What the hell were you even doing that far out as a kid? Exploring, duh. That's not the only thing, though. Every time I got near that house, I could always hear animals screaming coming from what I think was inside. But it almost sounded like their screams echoed twice, once through the woods, obviously, and twice from the house. James was full on giddying with excitement now. Oh man, he probably tortures animals or something. You got some kind of animal torturer living in your woods, dude. That's so cool. James antagonized. Cool isn't the word I'd use, I said as I walked back over to the couch, notioning for Lauren to do the same so we could resume our game, as James put out the joint. Even if James was being a jerk, I always liked Lauren. She was beautiful and had that goofy, clueless look in her eyes that some girls have. She had dyed her hair to her original black hair color and was frankly more attractive than when she was blonde, in my opinion. James looked exactly like her, almost like a male version of Lauren. He also had dark hair. It was much shorter than mine, though. We continued to play our game as Lauren was still intrigued by this mysterious man. I think she could tell I was unnerved by it, though, because she dropped it even though I could tell she had at least a dozen more questions. Chapter 3. As I was celebrating a second victory against Lauren, I heard a familiar bark at the base of the treehouse, one that I've heard dozens of times. I recognized it immediately. Is that a dog? What's a dog doing out here? Lauren asked, James nodding in a direction as to indicate his confusion as well. Shit, that's Milo. He must have followed us out here. I've got to get him back home. When he gets lost out here, he's gone for weeks. One time he was gone for a few months and came back with a broken leg. We're still not sure what happened to him, I said, trying to hide my panic as best as I can. I must have sucked at it because they changed their demeanor as soon as I finished. Alright, well, let's get down there and get him home. He'll be fine, Mikey. We'll come home with you. But how did he follow us the whole way up here? This hike was miles away from the house, James reassured with concern and confusion at the same time. I don't know, but let's go before he runs off, I rushed, already starting towards the door. We started our way out of the treehouse and down the old wooden ladder, but as soon as I got to the bottom, before my friends, Milo started running away from the treehouse even more, towards the woods, in the direction of that house. Milo was a toy poodle, so it wasn't very hard to see him in the moonlight as he had bright white fur. It was still maybe a mile away, but even the thought about going to that house made my body go into some kind of self-defense mode. I became nauseous and delirious. I quickly shook off the feeling and started after my dog, calling his name the whole time. Milo! Milo! Come on, Milo! Milo! Bacon, bacon, bacon! Whenever Milo hears the word bacon, he would always come running. In fact, that's what he wants when he decides to come home after getting lost. He'll stop and stare at the bag, waiting for someone to get him a piece. But this time was different. It's like he was trying to show me something, not like he was running away from me. Either way, he knew if I'd caught him that I'd take him back home, which he was on a mission to avoid. I was too far by now to decipher what my friends were yelling, but I could still hear them keeping a steady pace behind me as their screams stayed the same volume. Milo was frantically barking the whole time, so it wasn't very hard to find him through all the trees and shrubbery in front of me, blocking the path ahead. I didn't care about thorns or thick grass or sticks or any of it. I needed to get my dog before he went to that house. I knew that's what he wanted to show me. He probably smelled the house from miles away. I knew what him going inside that house might mean. I wanted to avoid an encounter with that man at all costs. All of a sudden, I started to hear a crackling sound in my hip. I had no idea what it was, and then suddenly, I heard James' voice. Mikey? Mikey, are you there? We're right behind you. I think we hear you screaming for your dog, but we don't know these woods like you do, and I can't risk getting me and my sister lost. Hello? I completely forgot. We all had walkie-talkies in case we got lost in the woods. Thank God we had them, because I wasn't even thinking about them at this point. I grabbed at my hip, shoved the walkie in my face, and pushed the buttons. Hello? James, I hear you. The dog's running towards that house I was talking about, and I can't let him go there. I don't know what might happen to him if that man sees him. Just keep going straight and following my screams. If you get lost, I will guide you back to the treehouse, but I have to keep going. Milo won't stop. I eagerly waited for a response while trying to catch my breath. I was completely exhausted after finishing that sentence, but I still heard my dog moving, so I had to keep moving too. Alright, I hear you. We'll keep following you, but if he does end up there, don't go inside that house. Who knows what this guy's deal is? I gave no indication that I heard him. I knew if Milo went in, that I'd go in after him. I wasn't gonna let this guy wear my dog, no way. I was already thinking about it. I just explained to him that my dog started running this direction. He may be strange, but there's no way he'd kill my dog in front of me. As I ran down this increasingly familiar path, I realized I was mere yards away from the house, and I still heard my dog barking, yards in front of me. As I grew closer, I saw it. That decrepit house. The house that I thought was creepy. The house owned by the man with the bear head. The house where all those animals surely died at. As I got closer than I ever had before, hearing my dog barking nearer to the house just outside the front door, the smell of decaying meat and death was so overwhelming that it nearly took me off my feet. I couldn't move forward without covering half my face with my shirt, but persistently, I crept towards Milo, who bolted in the front door. As I got within view distance of the steps, I saw signs that read no trespassing, but these signs weren't the ones you'd find in a house with an unfriendly owner, no. These signs were made of dead animals. The sign part was made out of fur, and the letters were made out of small animal bones. The posts were made out of bare legs, talons dug into the ground. They must have been there for years, because the letters were barely decipherable. I persisted and ran in the open front door after my dog, and the smell... Oh God, the smell. I couldn't stand it. I ran back out immediately to catch my breath with less putrid air, but still putrid nonetheless. I never knew that something could smell so foul. I took a deep breath and went into the house, hoping to grab my dog and get out of there as fast as I could without having an encounter. All my planning went out the window when I smelled whatever the hell this was, because I knew that something unnatural was going on here, and that the owner might not be willing to let my dog go, or let me go for that matter. I was hoping so badly that I could just find my dog and get out, but Milo was nowhere to be found. The main area of the cabin actually looked surprisingly normal. There was a TV above the lit fireplace and a leather couch in the middle of the room, with an average coffee table at the foot of it. There was a sliding glass door that led to a back way out of the house. I unlocked it and took note if I needed to make a quick escape if someone came from the front door. I anxiously walked down the hallway, which led to 3 more rooms. 2 of the rooms were closed, so I didn't even check them as I knew Milo couldn't turn a doorknob. I ran to the open door, which was the first door on my right, and I peered inside. It was too dark for me to see anything at all. The fireplace from the living room was the only illumination in the entire house as far as I could tell. I searched in my pocket for my phone and realized that I didn't grab it before I left the treehouse. I did find something else, though. The lighter! Thank God, I decided today was the day I smoked with James and Lauren. I immediately flicked the lighter as I scrambled for a switch, my feet squishing as I walked. I finally found one and flicked it as the entire room lit up. When the lights turned on, I saw something horrible. The entire room was filled with the blood and guts of animals, and that's when I realized the smell was strongest in this room. Gnawing on the guts of animals, there Milo was. There was an almost cult-like altar at the back of the room with all kinds of heads from different kinds of animals placed atop it. Squirrel, wolf, bear, rabbit, dog. Oh God, I whispered, fighting my gag reflex. I swooped up Milo and ran as fast as I could out the front door. I had to get the hell out of here, but as I did, I ran into someone who knocked me off my feet. It was a big, tall man covered in animal fur with a bear mask on his head. Or at least, that's what I thought it was. The bear mask wasn't a mask at all. It was the head of a dead bear. There was dried blood oozing out of it. He hadn't drained the head before putting it on and was wearing it like some kind of monster. I don't think that he was human. As I tried my hardest to crawl backwards with a dog in one arm, he started to walk towards me. I didn't even care about my dog at this point. What the hell is wrong with me? I should have listened to James. Why didn't I listen to James? I tried to get up, but he grabbed my arm as soon as I was on my feet. When he grabbed it, I let my dog go and he ran out the front door. I tried to break free. I tried pulling. I tried hitting his arm with my free one, but all of it was in vain. This guy, or whatever he was inhumanly strong. All my attempts didn't even seem to faze him as he and his arm never budged. He started to pull me closer, and then I heard the sound of James' voice on my hip. Mikey! Mike, are you there? Did you go into the fucking house? I said not to. Where are you? The smell. It smells like death out here. Mikey, answer me. Mike, it's Lauren. We found Milo. Whose blood is this? What the hell was he eating? If you're looking for him, then don't. Where the hell are you? Lauren had cut James off using her own walkie-talkie. This seemed to finally get a reaction from the man as he took his other arm and reached for my walkie. He pushed the button and then he spoke.
3 players, 1 captured.
His voice sounded so deep and strangled it shook me to my core. Lauren spoke again. Who the hell is this? The police are on the way. You'll be arrested. I knew it was a lie, but either way the man didn't answer. He just dropped the walkie on the ground, and I took the opportunity while he was distracted to give one hell of a bite onto the only part of his arm that I didn't see fur. And it worked. He yanked his arm away with a slight grunt of pain. I could see that he was bleeding before he yanked his arm away. I was free. I bolted for the sliding glass door that I unlocked before and opened it without a problem. I could hear the man's footsteps, but he wasn't behind me. He was going farther into the house. I ran as fast as I could anyways. I hoped James and Laura's wouldn't go near that house in a foolish attempt to rescue me, as I didn't have my walkie anymore, so I couldn't tell them I'd escaped. My guess was that they'd be towards the treehouse and I'd run into them on the way, so that's the direction I chose. I thought about what he had spoken as I sprinted. 3 players? Does he want to play some kind of twisted, sick game with us? Is that what he does with those animals? I ran towards where I thought Lauren and James would be, and I found them. They were still outside of the house. They couldn't see me until I ran up to them. With exasperated tongue, I told them about everything. Guys. He's here. I don't fucking know, but we gotta go. They looked concerned. Lauren was holding Milo with both hands, and James was standing upright. Blood drained from his face, but he wasn't reacting to me. He was reacting to something else. Something at the front door. I turned my head, and it was the man, crouched down, holding something. I couldn't tell what it was until I heard it. A gunshot. A second after the gunshot, I turned and saw Lauren drop to the ground face first. She fell right onto Milo, and I saw she was bleeding from the back of her head. The bullet had gone right through. Oh fuck, I muttered as I started to run. But James wasn't running. He was frozen in fear and grief, staring at Lauren's body. Sis. Oh God, no, sis. Please answer me. His voice was so crushed and completely void of any joy. I knew she wasn't going to get up. Quickly, I spun around and grabbed James by the shoulder. Tears were dripping from his face. James, we gotta get the fuck out of here, okay? I get it. But she's gone, James. I'm so fucking sorry, but we gotta go. Come on. I was tugging on him the whole time, my voice cracking and sounding panicked. James finally resisted his emotions and started to run with me away from the house. I hadn't realized, but I was crying too. I was trying to run and wipe my tears at the same time so I could see in the darkness of the woods, only illuminated by the moonlight above us. We were sprinting so hard and so fast side by side when we heard a voice from James' walkie-talkie.
1 down.
It was the same voice I heard from the man with the bear head. He was hunting us. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? This sick motherfucker! James started grasping at his hip, his sadness replaced with overwhelming rage. I'm gonna fucking kill you, you motherfucker, you hear me? You're dead, you son of a bitch, you're gonna burn in hell for this, I'll see to it! His voice wasn't at all threatening. It was screechy, stammery, and full of fear. Just keep fucking running, man. If we can get to the treehouse, we can hide there. The door locks and the thing is built like a fortress. I'll have my phone so we can call for help. Let's go! I yelled, hoping he could hear me talking over him. I think he did because he put the walkie back on his hip and kept running. In no time, we were back at the treehouse. I hadn't seen any sign of the man with the glances behind me that I had taken periodically, just in case the man was faster than us, and we had to split up. I climbed up the ladder as fast as I could and we stepped in. We had left so abruptly that the door wasn't even closed, and the generator was still on. Quickly, I stepped in to hit the kill switch to the generator. As I walked in, I saw the victory TV screen from my win against Lauren, still on the screen. Lauren's character dead on the ground after I delivered her a fatality. Even though it was coincidental, it made me queasy immediately. I hit the kill switch before James got in. I didn't want him to see it. Also, if we were going to be hiding, anything emitting light in our treehouse would give us away. James stepped in immediately. He closed and locked the door. Michael, what the fuck did you get us into? James sounded angry, but it was directed at something. At me. James, I never meant for any of this to happen. I'm so fucking sorry about Lauren. James cut me off. No, you don't get to be fucking sorry. You're the reason she's dead. She was 15, you fuck. If we somehow survive this, I never want to see you again. It should have been you. She was innocent and this was all your fault, so in what fucked up world does she die and you live? His words crushed me. I broke into tears, but I didn't respond. He was right. If I had just let my dog go, none of this would have happened. On top of it all, we didn't even get him back home. Lauren is dead because of me, and we were in no better of a position, being hunted by some psychopath that I pissed off. Tears flowing from my eyes, I looked away from James and went to the leg rest in front of the couch, where I knew my phone was. No service, I said weakly, expecting. James didn't react. He had slid down the door, back against it, sitting with his arms hanging off his knees. He almost looked dead. I didn't know what to do. I loved Lauren too, nowhere near as much as James loved her, but I had never lost anyone before. I wanted to grieve with my best friend, but I couldn't. Because I was the reason Lauren was dead. 10 minutes passed and I still didn't hear anything. No sign of the man and not even a sound from James. James finally got up and pulled the string to drop down ladder. Finally I spoke. Where are you going, man? I said, in the most apologetic way I could say something without apologizing. I'm gonna get some sleep. No sign of the guy. He probably doesn't even know this place exists. Good night, man, James said as he climbed up the ladder. James' voice was dreary, but it was also soft. He wasn't filled with rage like he was when we first got to the treehouse. I didn't respond. I doubt he wants to hear me apologize some more. He might lose it. A few hours passed and we still didn't hear anything, but there was no way we were going to check it out. If he was a hunter, one thing he had was patience. I know because my dad was a hunter, and sometimes he took me out on hunts that could drag on for hours. The whole time I'd be complaining that this was boring and that I wanted to go home. My idea was that we were gone overnight, so our parents had to have been worried about us and maybe called the police to search the woods, or maybe they'd search themselves. God, I hope not. Lauren had already died because of me. There was no way I could have dealt with another death on my conscience. All I had to do now was wait for James to wake up. Maybe I could get some rest while he kept watch, or maybe we could both make a run for the main house, which was about 4 miles away. Either way, I was getting more and more tired, and I was very close to falling asleep. So I decided to go wake up James. Hope he's not still mad at me. I started up the ladder that I never closed after James went up. The bed was behind the ladder, so I couldn't actually see until I got up to the second floor. Unless I was some kind of owl or something. Hey, James, wake up, man. I'm falling asleep out here. No response. James, come on, man, get up. No response. I went over to the bed and threw off the covers. And what I saw shook me to my core. I saw James' phone, but James was nowhere to be seen. I hadn't even realized, but the ladder to the 3rd floor was open. James must not have realized it either. James was taken.